Welcome to another episode of More Than Books, Stories from the Kanawha County Public Library. I'm your host, Stan Howe. On this program, we take a look beyond the shelves to highlight news, activities, events, and the resources available for KCPL patrons. KCPL began Bookmobile service 90 years ago in 1934, introducing what was then called the Book Truck and Library. The original Bookmobile ventured down Kanawha County highways until 1953, when a new vehicle was purchased. New KCPL Bookmobiles later hit the road in 1979, 1990, and again in 2010. KCPL's latest Bookmobile entered service last fall. With regular stops across Kanawha County, KCPL's Bookmobile makes accessing library materials a lot more convenient. It offers collections of high-demand materials for all ages, including best-selling books, DVDs, audiobooks, music CDs, and more. The Bookmobile also offers holds pickup, materials return, and staff information assistance. It literally is a rolling library on wheels. Our traveling correspondent, Jai Ravine, paid a recent visit to the Bookmobile and chatted with the Bookmobile's Lynn McAllister and Natalie Pillion.
All right, welcome. Here with me today is Natalie Pillion, the Bookmobile Services Specialist here. How are you doing today, Natalie?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to be chatting with you today. We're here in the offices that you share with Lynn to do all things Bookmobile, right? So, and we are on the other side of Riverside High School, so from the library. So, yeah. So how long have you worked at KCPL for?
I've been at the library since November 2023. And then like 2 weeks after I started, we were on the road. So it's been a quick transition for me, and it's run pretty smoothly so far.
Nice.
Since November.
Yeah. So fairly new. Yeah. And so the Bookmobile, is also new too. Almost as new as you are. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Me and the Bookmobile started together.
Yeah. Right. So you can sort of like learn together. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what your role is like on a daily basis.
Well, today's Monday, so usually we go to Kanawha Mall, which is our like a consistent stop that we do every week.
Right.
We go at 9 a.m., come back at 1, and then we do a little more like admin stuff and make sure that the rest of the week is prepared for.
Right.
So yeah, we have patrons for the Kanawha Mall. When they had the other Bookmobile, I know there were a bit more traffic there.
Right.
So people are getting a little more used to this one.
Gotcha.
But we park right in front of the DMV area.
Okay.
And we do have our regulars. I would say like 10 pretty regular people that come.
Nice.
Maybe not every week, but
yeah,
within a month that we have the
That's good.
familiar faces.
Yeah.
And on Tuesdays we go to Glasgow. In the morning we go to the Glasgow Dollar General. And then in the afternoon we go to the Moe's Smoke Shop, which is on Route 60. And that's hopefully to allow passerbys that go on Route 60 on the way home or commuting to sort of be visible for them to just be able to pull off. And then the rest of the week.
And then also because that's great for Glasgow because the Glasgow branch is temporarily closed because of the building's water issues. So that way, they have a place to go.
Yeah. And until Glasgow gets fixed, we'll be in Glasgow.
Cool.
Just so that Glasgow has still a library while they're going through that.
Right.
And then the rest of the week, it's kind of split into, you go to a elementary school in the morning, and then we go to a public spot in the afternoon. For instance, this Thursday, we go to Pratt in the morning, and then we go to Pratt's Baptist Church in the afternoon.
Right.
So that way we have our private stop with the schools, and then for the public that they can go as well and use the Bookmobile in the afternoon.
So how are the kids enjoying having a Bookmobile come by?
The kids have really enjoyed it. It's some kids remember the old one because that was the size of the school bus and a bit bigger.
Right.
This one's a little bit smaller, but there's also kids that never got to see the other one. So it's some kids have cards and they're ready to experience the Bookmobile, and other ones are just kind of staring at amazement at everything that's on it.
Right.
So they've been really excited, and the schools have been good with figuring out, because before with the other bookmobile, they could have a whole class come on
Right.
at once. Now we do have to do sort of a rotation of like 5 and
small
6.
groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been a transition, but everyone's been pretty flexible with that. So
Cool.
yeah, the kids are definitely enjoying it.
Yeah. So when when you do the small groups in the bookmobile, is it kind of like welcome to, like, what do you all do? It's kind of just like welcome to.
Well, we have one side that is for juvenile, like the whole one side is for the kids, and then the other side's for the adults. So it's really easy for us to just go, anything on this wall,
right?
You can take from this wall and look. And
yeah.
So yeah, and you know, if they want a book that we don't have on there, it works as a branch, and we just put holds on it, and we'll get it delivered for next time.
Gotcha.
Because I have some right over there, but they can get holds, and a kid, you know, a third grader is the same as like an adult, where if you want a book, I'll put it on hold for you and bring it.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
That's been great.
Yay. Cool. So we've just talked about like the current schedule, I guess sort of like the school year type of schedule that y'all are doing. How's the schedule going to change in the summertime?
We will not be going to any of the schools, obviously, because they'll be closed. So we're trying to go to a few more daycares to serve some of the children that are maybe there for summer programs and stuff like that. I think we'll be going to like the YMCA.
Oh, cool.
I might be wrong about that. But if I am, we thought about it. But for the summer schedule, we're working with Elk Valley. We're partnering with them for a program at Coonskin each week. I believe whoever their main librarian is or their children's librarian, they're going to be doing readings for kids.
That's
so
exciting.
that'll be a nice way for everyone to also sort of bring the bookmobile into the community a little bit more.
Yeah.
Over on that way, because we've been focusing on the Eastern Kanawha County for right now. So it'd be nice to kind of branch out that way.
Gotcha.
For sort of the underserviced community that we're doing.
Cool. That's exciting. Yeah. All right. So this seems like a pretty unique job in the KCPL system, like working with the bookmobile. What are some things you like about it? What are some like maybe challenges about it?
I like it because my coworker is the only other person in the system who does what we're doing.
Right.
And she's been doing it for a very long time.
Yeah.
So if I ever don't know what's going on, she does. And Lynn knows what I'm doing, or Lynn knows what she's doing, so she can tell me what to do. And there's a lot more direction from her. She's been in the game for a long time.
Right.
And yeah, the challenges have just been trying to get people to feel comfortable coming up on the bookmobile.
Right.
And sort of like what I was saying before, of treating it like its own branch.
Right.
And being like, yeah, we can get stuff for you. You can check out things here. You can turn in books from other branches also with us.
Right.
So it's been a learning curve, I think, for the community, because they haven't had the bookmobile in 2 years, like we said. So it's been the pros and cons to that. But and another challenge for this one is that it's just a new equipment. So like today our generator's not quite working as it should.
Yeah.
So those are other technical issues that we're finding, but we'll get over them somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great that you've got Lynn to kind of like help you in the new bookmobile, like get back into things. So that's exciting. Awesome. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Thanks so much, Natalie, for chatting with me today. And we're going to have more with Lynn McAllister right after this. All right, welcome back to More Than Books. I'm here with Lynn McAllister, who is the Bookmobile Services Coordinator here at KCPL. Thanks so much for spending time with me today and talking all things bookmobile. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Awesome. So, how long have you worked for KCPL?
I've been here 21 years.
Wow. Yeah. And where did you start when you first started?
I started at Riverside part-time.
Yeah.
And I took my oldest son there, like every day.
Right. Yeah.
And I got to know the people that worked there.
Right.
And one of them said, "Hey, we're hiring. You should apply."
Yeah.
So I did. been there ever since.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome. And so have you? So I've heard that you've worked with the older versions of the Bookmobile that we've had.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the very first Bookmobile that you worked with.
Okay, the first one I worked with was the old blue and white one. I loved it.
Yeah.
But it was getting old. I think they got rid of it when it was 20 years old. And it was all wood, where this one's all metal.
Right.
And then we got the second Bookmobile of my time being here.
Right.
And it was taller, and it was longer.
Gotcha.
And it was all wood.
Right.
But, yeah, I really, that's what I started out with. That's what I was used to.
Right, yeah.
So I really, enjoyed driving them.
Yeah. And tell me about what the route was like in those, in the first couple Bookmobiles.
Well, the one that stands out the most is we used to go to Quick.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was on a curvy, very little road.
Right.
And I was learning, still learning to drive it, on that one.
Yeah.
And it was a little scary.
Yeah.
But other than that, most of the stops we go to are pretty easy, you know. And we were on a 2-week rotation. We're on a 3-week now.
Okay.
And we went to schools every morning.
Right. And
public stops after that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Cool. And so we're here now in the newest iteration of the Bookmobile.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different from what you were used to?
Well, it is a truck.
Uh-huh.
I've never driven a big truck.
Gotcha.
So I'm still getting used to it. But it holds plenty. It gets the job done.
Right. Uh-huh.
So that's what matters.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And it can actually go maybe into like smaller parking lots that the older one couldn't go into, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's a few stops we couldn't go to because we had nowhere to turn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yes, this one's much easier.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the fun features of the new Bookmobile?
Well, we have a chairlift on this one, and we did not have it on the other ones.
Gotcha.
And I know we have one little boy at a school, and he's in a wheelchair, and he is so excited to come on.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's worth it just for him.
Right.
But we go to some assisted living facilities, and some of the patrons that are not steady on their feet, they'll ride it up to get on and off.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Cool.
It comes in handy.
Yeah. Tell me about how the response has been from the kids that you've been able to visit with this new Bookmobile.
Well, a lot of the kids, well, I should say all the kids, they never came on the old one.
Right.
So this is what they're getting to know.
Right.
And they're tickled to death.
Yeah.
They love coming out, being able, to get their books and pick them themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, they're very excited.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about when you go to the assisted living facilities? Like
they're excited too.
Yeah. That's right.
They are excited too.
Yeah.
But we have a cart we take into them.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
For the ones that can't come out.
Right.
So
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll tell us what they want.
Right.
And we actually have a lady at one of them, and she actually writes us letters.
Oh.
Telling us what she likes and what she doesn't. And very old school, but they're nice to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yay. Yeah. Anything else about like the general response from the community with the new Bookmobile?
Well, we need to get more people coming on.
Gotcha.
Because so many people where it's just different, where we move and the other branches don't. We just have to get them used to it and let them know that we have everything the branches offer.
Right.
Except for a computer.
Right.
But, we're out there. Come see us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. What kind of support do you have in your position, and how is it working with Natalie?
Well, she is great. I couldn't ask for anybody better.
Yeah.
She picked right up on it. She loves driving.
Cool. Yeah.
Took right to it. She'd never drove anything big.
Right.
And then I've got Erica and Sarah and Ivy.
Right.
Which, they're good to get the schedule flipped around if me or Natalie need off.
Right, yeah.
And Erica has experience with a Bookmobile like this one.
Gotcha.
And she also said she can drive them.
Yeah,
So she's a backup person.
That's cool. Yeah.
And Sarah's flexible. She helps a lot. And like I said, Ivy, with the schedule, she's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I've got plenty of support.
That's great, yeah. Do you have any stories from like the old Bookmobile that you want to share, or some stories like from the new Bookmobile? Like we heard about the kid that can come on because he's used the chairlift because he's in a wheelchair. But any other stories you want to share about like old Bookmobile, new Bookmobile?
Well, the old Bookmobile, we had a couple patrons that were in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And we would just grab the kind of books we knew they liked, and we would take it to them, and they would just go through them. And so we served them too.
Yeah.
But either way, if you get a wheelchair on here or two, you've got no room.
Right, yeah.
So, sometimes you just take them what they want, and it works out that way too.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want to share with us today, Lynn? No?
I think we're good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for chatting with me, Lynn. And all right, we're going to have more from More Than Books right after this.
Welcome back to More Than Books, stories from the Kanawha County Public Library. You know, one of my favorite summer pastimes is reading, and I'm not alone in that. Lots of folks use summer vacations as a time to catch up on all those books they've been meaning to read. And if you're at the beach, that's a particularly good time to get caught up. Your local library, of course, is a great place to find good books for the summer. But the question is, what kind of books should you pick up? Here to help us with that is the head of KCPL's reference department, Elizabeth Frazier. Elizabeth, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Stan.
So, okay, let's start out by talking about how people approach reading in the summertime. Is it different from what they do the rest of the year?
I think it is. I think that people tend to look for kind of lighter reading in the summer, or they're going to be more interrupted. If you're at the beach, you're going to be in the water, you're going to be back in your chair, where's my drink?
Dodging sharks.
Yeah. So they want something where reading through the book tends to be more straightforward, maybe not a super complicated plot. They may still like the same things. They may want a romance, or they may want a thriller, or they may want a historical novel. But they're going to want something that perhaps is a little more fun and a little less literary.
Well, one of the things that you do, you kind of help people out by picking out or suggesting some books for the summer. How do you pick out the books that you end up suggesting?
The most important thing that I think is to ask them, tell me about a book that you liked. Because they can tell you, well, I really loved this book because the characters just really touched my heart. Or I read this Western, but you have to also listen, because maybe they really loved that Western, not because they were a Western reader, but because it had Native Americans portrayed in a positive light in it. And they want to read more things about Native Americans, but not necessarily Westerns. So you ask them questions about what it was that they liked before, and try and find something that might have that same feel.
Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What kind of titles are you recommending for the summer of 2024?
Well, I have a couple, and I've picked some for different age groups. One of the ones that's coming out this summer for kids is If You Run Out of Words by Sala, which is the story of a little girl and her dad at bedtime. And he's reading, and they're talking, and she asks her dad, well, what if you run out of words? How will you communicate with me? What would change? And so he begins this elaborate story of how he would go to the elves' word factory and he would get more words, but he assures her that he will never run out of the three most important words, which are I love you. Another one that I'm excited about is Built to Last by Min. My mother always wanted to get us every summer we had a box. Like my mom would try and mooch a refrigerator box off of somebody, which we would then turn into rocket ships and frontier port. And Built to Last is the story about two boys who build things with boxes and the things around them. But when everything falls apart, is their friendship going to fall apart? Or are they going to work it out? For teens, I'm recommending Spin of Fate by Vora. Teen fiction for the last 10 years or so has really focused on kind of dystopian worlds, and this isn't any different, but it's a new take on it. And Ania is born into a lower caste in the society, and for reasons unknown to her is suddenly thrust into an upper tier of society where she's got a lot more perks, she's got a lot more stuff, things look really good, but she misses her mom and she misses her family, and she doesn't know how to get back to where she began. But it turns out that there are other people who aren't very happy with all this structure in their society, and are they going to be the way that she gets home, or are they going to just lead her into more trouble? And it's a really compelling novel, and I really think people are going to like it. I think you could not go anywhere without hearing about Filthy Rich Asians a couple years ago. Right. It was the big book, it was the big movie, and Kwan has a new book coming out called Lies and Weddings, which is about the Gresham family, which is a British Asian family. And they are Instagram famous, you know, because they're rich and they're famous, and they have yachts and they have this. But all of that is a lie. The Grisham Trust, which has propped up their wealth for so long, is basically bust. So Rufus's mother is leaning on him to make a good marriage with some money. And so it's like almost like it's modern, but it's almost like a Jane Austen novel. Is he going to marry for love or money? And what's going to make Mama happy? If you're a big kind of mystery thriller writer and you like Agatha Christie, there's a really fun book called Main Character by Goldis coming out, where a famous novelist kind of plots her novels by getting real people together and sticking them in a situation to see what happens, and it will inspire her then to write her novel. And she takes Rory and says to Rory, come with me on the Orient Express, but what she doesn't tell Rory is that all of her family and problems are going to be invited along with her to see what happens. Well, you can't have the Orient Express and a mystery writer without something going on. So.
Okay. What else we got?
I like Table for Two. I'm a big Towles fan. You may know him from Gentleman in Moscow, which is just being made into a film, and he had Lincoln Highway a couple years ago. Well, we're probably more familiar with him for his novels, but this is a collection of 6 short stories. It's called Table for Two, and 1 novella. It's got that kind of golden age of Hollywood feel to it, and people who were fans of his earlier novel, Rules of Civility, are going to be really tickled because one of their favorite characters, Eva, is back. Okay. And that will let you catch up on that.
And you have one more.
My last book is The Women by Hannah. In her book, most recent book, The Great Alone, the novel dealt with a man who's come back and he's suffering from PTSD from his experiences in the Vietnam War and the turmoil and things that happen in his family because of that. And in this one, she is taking a young nurse who is at the very beginning of her nursing career, who decides to go to Vietnam because her brother is serving in Vietnam. And it follows Frankie McGrath through her kind of time in Vietnam, but also what was it like when she comes home. I think people who are fans of the TV show China Beach will enjoy this. And let's face it, Kirsten Hanna has 1 million fans who are going to be chomping at the bit for this.
Right. Some great suggestions. Let's switch gears just a little bit. So one of the main objectives every year of KCPL is put out a good summer library club for kids. Yes. Tell us a little bit about this year's summer library club.
Well, our theme this year for adults and for children is Adventure Begins at Your Library. So we're going to have a lot of kind of adventure kind of themes, very interactive. We're bringing in History Alive performers, which is always a really, really popular family event. And then we have a lot of other presenters coming in. And then, of course, we will have our reading portion of Adventure Begins at Your Library, where kids can read and track their reading in a log and then be eligible for reading achievement prizes.
And of course, it helps with the so-called summer slide. Kids who don't read during the summer lose some of their educational.
It is true. You've got almost 3 months. Vacation's not as long as when I was young. Remember, we didn't stop and start until beginning of September. But during that time, if you're not reading, particularly with younger kids, they're losing. They're not practicing. But the whole thing is with Summer Library Club is that reading doesn't have to be something you have to read. They get to pick out they get to pick out books that they like, that they enjoy, that they want to read. The other thing too is that if parents are concerned about Summer Slide, not only with reading but with other topics, we subscribe to a service called Scholastic Teachables, and there are summer packets with all kinds of activities, and they're geared by grades. And you can use some or all of the packet to kind of have fun activities that will keep your kids on track so that when they go back in the fall, they haven't gone backwards.
That's great. Elizabeth, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it. Be sure to check out the KCPL website for tips on books to read and more on the 2024 Summer Library Club. We'll be back with more right after this.
I'm Ferdinand. You look at me and think big. You think scary. But I'm a little misunderstood. Sorry I almost killed you. Kids with learning and attention issues are misunderstood too. Take the time to understand. Learn more at understood.org.
Bookmobiles have been traveling down Kanawha County roads for 90 years. And of course, there have been a lot of changes to both the Bookmobile and to KCPL during that time. But what hasn't changed is the core mission of KCPL, to provide quality library service all across Kanawha County. And if the people can't come to the library, then we bring the library to the people. And the KCPL Bookmobile is still doing that all these years later. Summertime is a great time to get caught up on your reading, and it's a great time to make sure that students grab a good book or two while they're out of school to help ensure that they avoid that summer slide. And KCPL is here to help do both of those things. I'd like to thank the head of the KCPL Reference Department, Elizabeth Frazier, for giving us some tips on what to read this summer. And of course, thanks to Bookmobile specialists Lynn McAllister and Natalie Pillion for spending some time with correspondent Jai Ravine. I'm Stan Howe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on More Than Books, Stories from the Kanawha County Public Library.